Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. Grab a cup of knit and chat. Hopefully you can see me okay. I'm trying a new setup here, but it's doesn't look like it's working very great. And all of a sudden the sun decides to show up. So now I have slots across my face. So as this is a no edit YouTube channel, we're just going to have to grin and bear it. But welcome. It's October 15th, 2023. I had somewhat of a busy weekend. I went to Oregon Flock and Fiber Festival. It's known as OFF. I went there yesterday. It's going on still today. I thought about going back and just looking around on my own, but then I decided not to. I went and met a friend there yesterday morning, and there was a couple of people, one that I had met before and one that I had never met. So I was walking around with other people. I didn't really have a whole lot in mind of what I wanted to look for. I did need a mini skein, which I'll show you in a minute about what I got and what it was for. But other than that, it was just looking around and having fun. But because I met some people there and I was with people that I didn't know, I did not take any kind of video or anything of that sort because I didn't want them to feel uncomfortable or anything. To me, it's an okay size of a fiber festival. I have been to bigger ones. I think the Black Sheep Fiber Festival that's held in the spring is a little bit larger, but it could have just been the way that I was looking at it. I'm not sure. In case you didn't know, those are held in Albany, Oregon. I live in Oregon, and I'm not quite used to it here yet because there's a lot of fiber and stuff type things going on every now and then, but I'm not so used to not having a big variety of fiber. Wow, that looks really funky. I moved here from just north of Seattle, and there's, I don't know, within 20 to 25 miles, there may be upwards of 10 yarn shops. Give me a second. Let me see if I can fix this sun thing. Okay. Hopefully it looks like that's helped. It was just the way that the slats on my shades were facing. So I just had to flip them up instead of down. What was I talking about? Oh, within 20 to 25 miles, there's upwards of like 10 yarn shops from where I used to live in Seattle, Washington, or just north of Seattle, Washington. So I've been down here over a year now, and I'm having some withdrawals. I was part of a spinning group up there, and the spinning groups here I have to drive about an hour to get to one that's on Saturdays, or they're at the senior citizen site on Mondays only, that kind of thing. Excuse me. I work Monday through Friday, so that's not an option. Excuse me while I take a drink of my Sprite. And in case I haven't said it, I hope you grab a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, something refreshing, and just kind of snuggle in. It's going to be a short one. I'm all over the place because I normally have a lot to work with, and here lately I haven't done a whole lot of knitting or a whole lot of crochet. Um, Yesterday's Fiber Festival, as I was saying, was, I wouldn't say disappointing. I mean, all fiber festivals are different, and I really like that about them. I just feel like there was a good representation this time of fiber to spin and yarn that's already spun. Um, Back in the spring when I went to Black Sheep, it seemed to me that there was way more fiber and roving to spin than it was of yarn already spun. And I spin yarn. Well, I have spun yarn. I think I've done like one little piece, and I have a couple of electric spinners and a couple of drop spindles. But I haven't really gotten that I need to spin to make an item type mentality yet. And I really want to get there because I love indie dyers. I dye yarn. I've shown some of my dyed yarn, but like at that fiber festival yesterday, $38 for 100 grams skein of sock yarn. You guys, that is just irrational to me. And I love my knitting. I love my crochet. I'm not knocking anybody. I have dyed yarn. I know you have to have your separate pieces of equipment. I know the dye can be expensive. I know how time consuming it is. I really do. It takes an entire day to dye yarn. When I dyed my salmon and crimson and purple yarn back at Labor Day, we got together for the day as a group. And if you like the colors that were being used, you could dye. And we had several things going at once, and it took all day. It really does. I mean, by the time you get the dye mixed up and you get the yarn soaked, if you haven't pre-soaked it, and you dye the yarn and you rinse the yarn after you let it cool, and you rinse it, and then you have to let it dry, and then you can skein it up. It takes all day. And sometimes more. And I get the fact that a lot of everybody that was there, it's their business, it's what they do. Great. But and not everybody wants to worry about dyeing yarn. And that's my little spill on that. I just cannot afford a lot of times, and I think this is like most people. And I'm not judgy because I do it all the time. I cannot afford indie dyed yarn as much as I want, because even at $16 and $17 a skein, that's an awful lot of money for a pair of socks, and to have a little bit left over to use as accent on another pair of socks, or even put in a scrappy sock blanket like I do. It's a lot of money, and that yarn becomes very special, and you can't, or I can't afford to buy indie dyed yarns a lot. So when I do go to fiber festivals, I do try to keep that in mind, that the fibers that the yarns that I'm getting are going to be very special to me. And I do take in consideration the things that people go through to make them. And I'm not knocking that, and I'm not saying it's not worth it, because I have done it. I just can't afford to do that. So when I buy mass produced yarn, that's why. Because, I mean, face it, you can go to Joann's and Michael's and buy a skein of yarn for $4 or $5. Sometimes $10, depending on what kind of yarn you're getting. And it's a little bit more affordable to make those mittens or those socks or those little hats, especially if you're making them for kids. I want to beat myself up because I spent the money on some specialty yarn yesterday for kids, and I'm probably going to be kicking myself for it. But how often do I do it? This is the first time. So getting on that, I'm going to go first. I'm going to show you my finished object. Yes, I said one finished object. And that is my Pebbles tunic. Let me see if I can scoot back. You can't really see. Let me tip the camera. You can see the pockets. You can see the mess in the room. I'm in my craft room. And I've been trying to go through fabric and stuff. But there's the cuff. I'll hold the pockets up so you can see. They're not very deep. There's the ribbing, the collar. Anyway, I've shown it while I was making it several times. And I'm in my comfy pants and they got hung. What can I say? I love the pattern. It's very comfortable. It has that drop shoulder sleeve. The only thing that I changed on this pattern at all was when you pick up for the sleeve, you see how close it is to my arm, all the way down basically. I did the first decrease, and then I'm not going to tell you about the pattern because it tells you to like knit so many stockinette rows and then decrease, and like any sleeve does. But I did the very first decrease and then I didn't decrease anymore. I left it because I have large arms and I don't like tight sleeves. I cannot stand tight sleeves. And I did an extra inch in the length before I started the cuff. And I love this because it's just a knit and purl cuff. It's a roll collar. It's the knit and purl on the bottom. I think if I would like to make another one. And I probably will make another one because I've said it on either the last podcast or the podcast before. I have learned that I'm not enjoying the long sleeves so much. I don't wear them like I would want. So I'm shifting to making cardigans and short sleeve sweaters or t-shirts. And I have a sweater in my wardrobe that I love. It's the Calliope sweater. It's on Ravelry. I think it's a free pattern. I just adore that pattern. It's so simple. It's simple and plain, but at the same time, it's nice because the way that the yoke or the collar or what have you is done makes it look like it took you forever to do it. But it's a simple enough stitch that it's just so pretty. I think I've shown a picture of it a couple of times. I'm not really sure if I've shown it on here. Let's see if I can find it. Um, there's so many. There it is. Hopefully you can see that pretty good. See how the yoke looks like it's done intric. I'm not even going to try to say it. It looks like it takes a lot to do it, but it's not. It's just how you place your stitches, and it's amazing, and I love it. Also, I made that in a pumpkin spice color, and I made it long sleeve, and I've worn it one time. I did that earlier this year. And although it's been not cold enough to wear it, I don't see myself wearing it. I wore this to work, and I work in an office. I have a desk job, and you could probably hear my fan going here. I have a little USB fan that clips to my desk that I keep on at all times because I get too hot, because they do try to keep it one temperature throughout the year, whether it's summer or winter. And I don't care if it's winter or summer, I get too hot. And I did get too hot with this on in the office. And with this one, the loose way that it's made here, I am able to pull it up without it to here, without it disrupting the stitches. And that's what I don't like, because if I take the time to make that pretty cuff that fits the wrist, I don't want to push it up. Excuse me. So that's my thing. So that's my finished object. I really have not done a whole lot of anything knit wise because my hands have been killing me. That sweater that I was talking about, the Calliope sweater, I did talk to my local yarn shop person a week or so ago about taking it out, and she talked about snipping the cuff and then just unraveling it back up to where I think I would want it. And I'm not sure. I kind of like where this drop hits right here. So where the drop shoulder hits, and then just make like a small inch cuff, ribbing, whatever you want to call it, like a little 1x1 or 2x2, whatever's on the bottom of the sweater. And I think that's probably what I'm gonna do, and just leave it not decrease, just leave it loose. I'm going to see if I mess it up. But, in the end, when I think about it, even if I try to do it and I mess it up, it's going to be, I can take it all the way back to the shoulder where I picked up stitches and start again. Compared to just having it in my drawer and never wearing it, and I love the color and I love the make, I think I'd rather do that. So I'm thinking about doing that. The green cardigan that I was working on, I haven't touched because that's what hurt my hands. It's a DK weight yarn that's really light and fluffy when I'm holding it by itself, but I think in the pattern that I'm doing it with, it makes it very thick and stiff as a fabric, and it really hurts my hands. So I'm not sure if I want to carry on with that one and just work on it a little bit at a time, or if I just want to take it out and try to use that in something else and find another yarn for it. I don't know what I'm going to do. Sorry, I'm just kind of all over the place today because that's what's gotten me off of knitting. It's been almost a week. I just started knitting again last night. The other thing that I'm making is the classic cardigan. My phone is messing up. The classic cardigan from Tin Can Knits. That's on their app. I highly recommend getting their app. It's a top-down, simple raglan cardigan. I'm still in the raglan increase part, but I'm almost halfway through that, so I'll be ready to split for sleeves soon, I think. Let's see what else. The other thing that I'm working on, Lolo did it, put out a test knit call. I think it was on Thursday. I got the email on Friday. She said it was not a secret test knit, so I can show it. I haven't weaved in any ends from the cast on, and this is what I've gotten done so far. So this test knit is supposed to be done the 31st of October. This is called the Tuberlence. I did a little pop of color. I did my cuff, and now I'm working on the pattern. I love it. So far, it's a easy to remember pattern, and for me, that's very nice because when people say it's an easy to remember pattern, I usually can't keep up with it. But because I do a 64, this is in a medium, a 64 stitch sock, it really is a simple pattern to keep up with. I am doing it in Lolo Did It's Bourbon. I got from a D-stash, and it's her low original, and it's helpful if I put on my glasses. It is in a 85% extra fine superwash merino and 15% nylon, and it's in bourbon. Like I said, I got that from a D-stash off of Etsy, I think. And then what I went for yesterday was a mini to go with it, and that's what I came up with. It was very pretty in the skein. I just did that pop of color on the cuff, and then I'm going to do the heel and toe, and I'm hoping I have enough because this was the only mini that they had of that. I hear of people all the time only doing toes, heels, and cuffs with a 20-gram mini, and I'm like, I don't know. So toes and heels is all I'm hoping for. I don't know when this pattern will come out. Like I said, I got the email to test knit on Friday. I had that bourbon color in my stash, and I thought that would be perfect. And when I was at the Fiber Festival yesterday, I got that mini, which is really nice because the only other colors I had was a very light color. And I may still try to incorporate that in there, but I figure it's October, it's fall, and I really like those brown colors. Um, so that's one acquisition from yesterday. The other that I'm excited about is from Jenkins. I got To Stand in Line. Here's their card. I'll try to remember to put their website on the description below. I got a Turkish drop spindle. So I left it apart. This is made out of Oregon oak, which is so pretty. This was a really special buy. And to stand at their spot, table, whatever you want to call it, you're standing in line for 15 or 20 minutes just to get close enough to the table to even look at what they have. Now, this is one of the larger ones. Isn't that gorgeous wood? I can't remember what this one is called. He has some that's called, you just slide them in like this, and then you leave the wider part of the shaft at the bottom, and then there's your spindle. And it does spin pretty fast. Swan is the, I just stood there yesterday doing this for a while. They have one called Swan, and that's a standard large spindle, and it's heavier, and it's a slower spinner. And this one's a faster spinner, and I wish I remembered what this one's name was. I cannot remember what its name was. He has them all named. It's a 2.2 ounce, or no, a 22.02 grams and 0.778 ounce on the weight. Whoop. His name's Ed Jenkins, and this is Oregon oak, and he writes all of that on the bottom of the spindles, and he has a number on here. So it was made in 2023, and then it has a G149, but I don't know what the G149 means. I don't know if that's something to do with the one it is, or what. But he has them. He calls one the Dragonfly, and then there's this one. Oh, and then there's Wren. And then he has some that are about that big. I mean, they're awesome. Let's see. They're there today. I really like this one. This is called the Merlin. And it has 1, 2, 3 crossbars. And I was trying to think of that one. But I didn't get that one. I got this one, and that's the one that everybody was really looking at. It averages about 30 grams as far as weight. Let's see. He also has a Dovoki and the Swan, and I can't remember what this one is, and I'm looking. They're all handmade, and I think that I don't know. I can't remember. But they're right now, today is the last day. They're at the Oregon Flock and Fiber 2023. But amazing. I got it. I have a Turkish spindle already. I like the idea of a Turkish spindle, but it's smaller than this. I like the idea of the Turkish spindle because as you're spinning, you can wind it. I'll have to watch a video on how to wind it, but you can wind it around these prongs, and then you can take the shaft out and then remove this, and then you have a little center pull, what they call turtles. And I really like the idea of that. And they're very portable. So I have I have a craft bag I take to work. I'm not ashamed to say it. So that whenever I'm on a break and it's raining outside and I can't go for a walk, I can do something. So that's the spindle. And then the little mini that I got did not have a tag on it, so I don't know what it's called. I don't know the shop I got it from or nothing, which minis are minis, and a lot of people just kind of think of them as, what do you call, the middle child or the redheaded stepchild, and they're just kind of forgotten about in that way. But yeah, the other place that I went is Always Be Kind Yarn. I highly recommend following them on Instagram. Excuse me. They've done some live videos on there. She's just amazing. I love her yarns. I know I saw her at Black Sheep earlier in the spring. That's when I first saw them. I think her name's Laura. We talked for a little bit yesterday. We talked about Needles at the Ready and Grocery Girls and I think it's Christopher. I just say Flannel and Purls. They're some of my favorite podcasters to watch. And we talked about all of them, and I know that she has sent some yarn to them, but I like getting, last time I got some minis for my little beekeeper's quilt and stuff like that. This time I got, and some needle stoppers or stitch stoppers. I got these. Aren't they just too cute? They're so cute. And then I got these, which she had the gray ones and she had the blue ones, and everybody has those, but I like the pink ones. She also had the little strap for the yarn carrier. I like to knit and walk sometimes when it's nice out and I'm at work. I have a little bag that I put on my wrist that I made, a little dumpling bag. And I can carry that, and I can work on socks or something small. while I walk, that's just in stockinette stitch. Um, this has their logo on it. Always Be Kind yarn. It helps if I turn it right side up. And then you just put this inside, and then you can set your yarn right on top through the middle. Let's see if I have, this is large, but you know, it goes like that. You have a cake of yarn, and then you have this that hooks down on there, and then you can pull from the outside. I had already started my socks. Oh, here's a smaller one. My bamboo pop. And then I can show you what it looks like. I had already started my socks, so I had started pulling from the inside, because whenever I have it in my little bags, I pull from the inside because it's easier. So it really, you know, it worked for a minute while it was on here, but then it doesn't really work. So whenever you're using this, it's best if you pull from the outside, and then it just twists, because it twists right here. And as you're walking and you're pulling your yarn, it'll just twist from the outside. I love it. I've seen them several different times. This looks like it's a 3D print thing, but I don't mind. It's wonderful. But the biggest purchase that I did there, this is called Glowworm Zebra Sock Yarn. And yes, they have a black light there, so you can stick it under the black light and see what it looks like when it's glowing. It's a 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. It's about 400 yards for the 100 grams. And just look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. I love it. I think I'm going to make some sock head slouch hats with that. I have kids in my life that love very bright tie-dye. One of them, and the other one loves the orange and green, the bright oranges and greens. And I think that's awesome. Not sure how much of that's going to be used. I don't know how many hats I'm going to get out of it, because the sock head slouch, it's a free pattern on Ravelry. I've shown it a couple of times. It goes from baby to child, baby, toddler, child, teen, adult small, and adult large, I think. It's so in size inclusive, and it does like, well, this is one of them right here. This is one that I made. I showed it last podcast. It's still sitting here. It hasn't been blocked yet or anything. But this is like 3 inches of ribbing, and then it's you knit up to 9 inches from the cast on, and then you start your decreases. And I think that this is a child size, and I think that that would be wonderful in this. I'm probably going to have some jealous grandchildren, and I'm probably going to have to buy more. Now, my little rant about indie dyed yarn at the beginning of this video being so expensive, this was expensive. I'm trying to remember how much it was. But to me, that is, it's $28 a skein. I think it's $28 a skein. Because I ordered another one when I got home. Just because I got to thinking, oh, the grandkids are going to be all kind of like jealous of one another. But I did order another one, but I think they're $28 a skein. And I paid it. But this is special because it's glow in the dark yarn. And it's that glow in the dark stripy. That's the only reason. Because I could have gotten a whole, and I thought about it, getting 100-gram skein of this right here and not having to worry about if I had enough and do the cuffs and heels and toes of my pair of socks with the same color and not have to worry about if I had enough or anything like that. But they wanted $38 for one skein of this. I'm sorry. It's brown with a deep charcoaly color in the middle. I cannot see myself paying $38 for that. But a glow in the dark, once in a lifetime purchase to get these colors, glow in the dark. I think that was worth it. Don't know how they do it. This one I didn't mind because I know it's got to be something different. I know a lot of people have a glow in the dark now. To me, that's something that I would never do on my own. But anyway, that's my acquisitions. Not really a whole lot else going on, honestly. I think I talked about it last time, but I'm not really sure. I've been doing a lot of sewing lately. I'm working on cutting out pieces for quilts, which I have here. Just a bunch of different scrappy pieces. I worked on one, putting it together. That's part of what it looks like there. It's just a bunch of different scraps. I'm working on getting this one finished. It's not even square. It's not perfect, but you know what? I don't care. I can use it in my car or what have you. It's just something to do when I can't knit, because honestly, last Monday, I've been in training a lot with work, and I will be up until January. It's just a whole 6 months training session. And it's all on Zoom. And if I don't have something in my hands, I'm not going to pay attention at all to what's going on. So I usually knit, and I knit something simple. And doing the raglan increases on my simple cardigan is what I was doing. I actually started that cardigan on Monday. I knit on it while I was doing that. Monday night was almost pure hell. I woke up Tuesday morning and all my hands hurt so bad. So I took my English paper piecing, which was a lot easier to do when I'm trying to pay attention to a Zoom meeting than my knitting was, actually. So that's a thought. I got all of my flowers done. for my English paper piecing quilt that I'm doing, and I started adding the gray because I'm doing all the different flowers, and then I'm putting gray around them and then placing the flowers on there. I don't think I have a picture of what I'm doing. This right here is, sorry about that, that's one of the flowers, and that's the gray that I'm putting around it. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing there. Actually, I'm doing that with them. That's what they're going to be like when they're all put together. So I have the middles in prints, and then I have kind of a variegated type material around the edge. And then I'm doing the gray around that. And then on the other one that matches this, the print is going to be around the outside, and that variegated is going to be the middle. And I've got 10 of those flowers, and it's going to make like a little throw blanket. It's going to be like a square. I don't know. Anyway, that's my intent. I was doing that, and then I have scrappy pieces that I'm doing. It's easier to hold things together like so, and then just sew them in, than it is for me to hold knitting needles right now or to sew on my machine. And I thought about doing a separate little video in between these little podcast videos showing what I'm doing with the sewing. But I'm not sure because, people can get mean, and if you don't do it the way that they do it, they want to tell you all about it. And quite frankly, I'm not proficient in any of this stuff that I do, the journal making, the English paper piecing, the sewing of the quilts, the knitting. None of that stuff is a profession. Not even my yarn dye. I mean, people wouldn't buy this because I've got way much white in it, but I don't mind that because I dyed it and I did it and I think it's pretty. But that being said, I see something that I want to try and I try it. So I don't know if I'm going to make a separate video of that kind of thing or not. I've tried setting it up so that I could record some of the sewing that I'm doing, but I haven't gotten it set up right yet. So we'll see what comes. But for right now, I have a couple of little knitting things. I have some sewing that I'm doing. I did that much of my sock. I started it last night, and I've done that much of it between last night and today already. And it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon here. But it's kind of flying by now that I'm through the cuff. So we'll see. I just may need to do, I have a timer, and that's something that I suggest because I have a tendency of starting to knit and then knitting and knitting and knitting and knitting and not stopping. So I have a timer right here. It's got 15, 20, 30, and 60 minutes on it. And what you do is you turn it on and then you flip it up. Like on the top here, I did 60. I flip it, it turns it on, and then it starts counting down. And then it'll stop, it'll beep, and then you just flip it back up this way, and that turns it off. You hear the beep. That turned it on, that turned it off. So I'm learning how to use that timer to time myself when knitting so that my hands don't hurt so bad. And I've gotten to where I set it for the hour when I'm doing my sewing as well, so that I get up and stand up and move around. So that's my little tip for this week. And it's almost as long as normal, and I didn't have a whole lot to talk about, but I hope to see you in a couple weeks. Enjoy making whatever it is that you make, and remember just to have fun. Bye.